We're on? Good. I'd like to call the Planning and Heritage Committee to order. Declaration of conflict of interest. Anybody in conflict of anything to discuss today? Thank you. Approval of the agenda. We have the agenda for today's meeting. I guess I would like to add one thing, and that's a short discussion on large public meetings, planning board public meetings, i.e. it was in the paper today about the STR. I wanted to speak to you people to get your concurrence on what I said in the paper today, so we're a little late doing it, but I just wanted to be able to say that we're
So you're adding that to the agenda, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Large, or just public meetings?
large public meetings because of health restrictions. Meetings aren't because of health restrictions, the issue is because of we're restricted by our health restrictions. Do I have approval of the agenda? Moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Councillor McCabe, that the agenda be adopted or approved as presented. All those in favor? All those opposed? Passed 3-0. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes for January the 15th, 2021. Any issues with those particular minutes? Everybody's cool? Could I have a mover of those minutes, and moved by Councillor Brown, or Mayor Brown?
Second.
Second by Councillor Yankoff. Any further discussion? Having none, those all in favor? All those opposed? 3-0. A business arising from those minutes. Any business arising?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
But maybe Alex might be able to answer this. Alex, what's the timeline for the Victoria Road, Sydney Street, Queen Street, Grafton Street proposal? I know CADC is
Right.
a lot of partners.
Yep.
Is it, like, are we looking at maybe implementing some of those parts this summer? Summer of 2021?
I can call down to Aaron Hanson down there at CADC in regard to when I suspect that plan will be done. I'm just speculating by the first of the season, but the changes in there, the plan is just one component. It's the operationalizing of that plan that's the issue. In some past histories in regard to programming on both Sydney Street and on Victoria Road.
Yeah.
So the nice thing that plan will do for you folks, and it's critical that you folks are up to speed on it, because of it'll end up in somebody's budget, a line department. At least Scott Adams will come forward and say that we're going to try to start to build portions or pieces of that plan.
Yeah.
So, but I can find you the date on when the plan itself will be finalized. And I don't know whether they want to go out to the public one more time before they finish it.
Right.
They've been to the stakeholders.
Right.
I don't know whether there was a public component. I think they did that initially, had a couple of public meetings, but it would be nice if the public had some kind of an opportunity, but that would have been in the RFP, and I'm not sure. But
And the reason I asked, Mr. Chair, because we're probably going to get calls from the merchants in Sydney Street, or the merchants in Victoria Road, the merchants in Queen Street.
Yeah.
What's going on, or what are we doing for summer 2021? And I don't want to have a repeat of last year, that we go down and do site visits. As Councillor Yankoff knows, we go down to Sydney Street twice. We're spoke to the property owner of the parking lot on Sydney Street, if he's going to shut down his entrance egress and just allow traffic to go in as suggested by Phantom Studios.
right. And it was nice to see on the call on Friday that the chief and Winston Bryan were on the call, just to, they're keeping abreast of it as well, because they just want to make sure that whatever is being proposed or whatever expectation is being raised, that they're ahead of that, and that they've either given their comments that it will or won't work from their perspective, because that was a bit of an issue in the past.
Yeah, very important input.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to discussions. The first one, I believe, is an amendments to the zoning development bylaw. Proposed amendments to the zoning development bylaw as it pertains to signage. Do you want to take that?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank everyone for accommodating this early in the morning. There's two issues on signage. When we met the last time, we talked about the priorities of, and unfortunately, my department's got more priorities than people, so it's very critical that we have these meetings to prioritize which parts of that to-do list that we want to follow up on. So when we met last, this was identified, dealing with a couple of changes in the zoning bylaw to reflect some inquiries that you folks have had from the public in regard to would the city contemplate, entertaining these changes to the sign bylaw. So, again, since this committee, they're the ones that dictate my work plan. So the purpose of today's meeting is to take those those two issues out and prioritize them and bring them forward for next month's planning board meeting and council. So the two issues are, one is signage on the 5th floor of a building. The issue there was an interpretation of the zoning bylaw. If you're on a corner, with abutting two streets, it's not problematic. This building is abutting a public right-of-way, doesn't seem to apply. So we will revisit that. I will come forward with amendments for council. The amendments are just going to be, if you want to do it, this is how to do it. There'll be very little discussion in regard to all of the, we're just going to bring it forward if this is a concern, if you want to implement that, this is the amendments that we propose. The other issue is dealing with
The guild.
but it's dealing with I'm trying to think, murals.
Yes, murals.
Right, so murals are.
Hi, just 1 second. If we're going to get into specifics,
Yeah.
I need to declare a conflict. So I just
Okay.
need to wonder where this conversation is going and look for direction from the chair whether or not I should be.
Yeah, I
leaving
think
or-
it'd be best,
Yeah.
Alana, just to shut
Okay.
down while we discuss the second one.
Okay, and someone just text me back if there's more to discuss, and I'll dial back in, and I'll
Okay.
just exit for now until I hear from Julie or somebody to call back in.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
Bye-bye.
bye.
Telepathic. That's what happens. Women have power that you don't know about.
Go ahead, Mr. Forbes.
Yeah, so the issue is murals is set up, they're kind of exempted in the zoning bylaw, and murals runs through the Arts Advisory Committee, and then council approves murals. The recent thing that has come up is some of these murals that are being reviewed, and we were fine with that planning, but we're fine with it. But then when the mural came back, the mural has got some embedded signage in it, and the signage, it's all very comprehensive. Everything is covered. Like if you read the definition of what a sign is, it's pretty well anything. So now there's a conflict between the two, a mural and a sign. So again, if you so desire, we can bring forward amendments. We'll either exempt that. I mean, there are some issues with that, but because what's going to happen is that these murals are going to go to you folks in the future, and if they have signage embedded in them, it will be up to you folks to decide. Because in this particular instance, it's fairly subtle. It's very subtle, but it does meet the definition of a sign. And the implications are that people, we have enforcement issues all the time, and so people, those provisions in the sign bylaw were put in for an express reason, not really dealing with murals. But the bottom line is that if you want it delegated to you folks, you will be the ones that review them in the future. You're going to have to sign up on the mural, and if there's any signage in it, you will decide whether you're comfortable with the signage.
Yeah, Mr. Forbes, I did notice in section 44, which is the signage bylaw.
Right.
I can't quote it verbatim now, but I can see it, but I just don't have the numbers there for it. And it says murals and signs will be adjudicated. I'm paraphrasing here. On the recommendation, murals and signs will be adjudicated on the recommendation of the Arts Advisory Board and decided by council. And that's paraphrasing it. I don't think that's fair. If you're responsible for that piece of legislation, that's in the zoning and development bylaw, and if you're going to be held to be the responsible person, you should have a say along the route. I'm not saying that the committee should come out. The committee can stay, but you should be a member, because the old adage in business is that you have the authority, you have the responsibility to do the job, you have the authority to allow you to do the job, and then you have the accountability for doing the job So if we're going to hold your feet to the fire on those three elements, you should have a hand before it comes to council to express your opinion, be it great or lousy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know, and the case in point is, you know, and I would indicate, and this isn't the only one. There's more of these that are proposed, and they can be like, if you're not an attuned person, you may not even know the implications of the signage in it. The concern may be, and I don't know the answer to this. Let's say you approve a sign, and because you're just going to get a picture, but if they don't implement it properly, and then they go much beyond that, particularly on the signage element of it, then I'm not. It won't be me. So who's going to enforce that?
But I'm saying it should be you. You should be in the chain as it comes to council.
Okay, and again, I haven't crafted the amendment yet.
And I was gonna say, if I could, Chair, this is where it gets foggy, because for you would say this is signage, where the Arts Advisory Committee say, this is art.
Yeah.
So we get into the debate on, you know, it'd be like someone coming in and telling Alex, no, that's not, this is different plan.
But right now, Councilor McCabe, it says both murals and signage. So it's
Under
not-
this bylaw,
under the governing bylaw, but the manager of the department doesn't have any say, and when the trouble starts, he's going to be held responsible because but he doesn't have any, he doesn't, we haven't given him the authority to be responsible and therefore accountable for scrutinizing it before it gets into this room.
Right. A little bit of my concern is that it's going to go to you folks, and it's going to end up on your plate. And then, like, I've got some enforcement issues out that are down to Cox and Palmer on. They're called billboard signs. Well, if it's a billboard and you put some pictures on it, you know, again, people can test. You know, it's the nature of a bylaw, right? They're kind of a crude tool, and they don't. You know, there are some situations which are fine, like in possibly this slight, references that are very subtle. That's fine. No one has any issue. But when it's very overt, and then the problem's going to be council approved it through the Arts Advisory Committee. They deviated. Who is going to enforce but I will have disconnected from it.
Yeah, but that's my problem.
Right.
As the chair responsible for compliance with the zoning and development bylaw, the person that is held responsible doesn't have the opportunity to express his or her praise or anti-praise, whatever it may be. That's my point, is you're being held responsible to administer the bylaw, but somebody else has allotted that particular function.
Right.
It's allotted it to someone else and taken you out of it.
Yeah,
but we can discuss that at
sure. A little bit of the break in it is that the council approval, but again, council's a busy spot.
Yeah, sure it is.
Folks show up at
Sure
council
it is.
meeting and something flies through, and then if the public push back, just on this one item, if you so desire, I mean, I was asked if I could bring them forward. It's for February. If in order to get it right, in regard, it's enforcement that I'm concerned about.
Yes.
I'm concerned that you're going to make a decision. Then if somebody doesn't follow the rules as to how it worked, then who's going to enforce it? So if you can wait a little bit longer, we can have a special meeting later. But I didn't intend to use David Hooley. But David could just advise in regard to, how this relatively small thing is impacting back to the core document, which is the sign bylaw. And again, should I be involved, or like, I don't even know, like, if I was, it's really hard to say, because you have to deviate from the definition of a sign. So some of these are going to, when they get the approval as a mural, and when they come in under that definition of a sign, it's really hard for me to say, well, it's only subtle, right? This one's really overt, right? They go, Mayor Brown's, operation, right? Well, that's an easy one, but if they showed, some diagrams or whatever, and people looked at it long enough and they go, I think that says Mayor Brown's, business, right? I mean, that's the problem. They're subtle. A mural is really easy. If it's no references to any part of the business that it's on, that's easy peasy.
So,
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Chair, under the zoning development under definitions, mural means a painting or graphic representation is placed, painted on a building. Murals may be decorative or serve identification, advertising or information purposes. And then if you go back to section 44, that's
Yeah.
what you're talking about. It starts off by prohibited signs, section 44.3.
Right.
Subsection 44.3.1 P, murals or any sign painted upon a building or structure in the 500 lot area.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about.
Both, yeah.
As you were referring to.
Yeah.
Unless it has been reviewed by the Arts Advisory
point.
Board and approved by council.
That's-
Because the advisory board is just an advisory board.
That's right.
That advises this body right here.
That's right.
what you were saying.
Yeah, but I think the corner, the other building down there should have a hand in that when it comes to, on the way
the
here,
side.
on the way here.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, there's some things in my mind that there's a way to do this, and again, I can do it quickly. Or,
No.
or, you know, again, if you feel that, and again, and there's, I think there's been some lack of understanding as to, my reluctance isn't with there's one sign that I've seen and one that was proposed, right? I mean, I don't think that they're gonna be problematic, but it's when it exceeds that. And then did we lose the ability to enforce that, right? Because these are items in the downtown, a billboard sign.
Especially 500 lot.
Right. But like a billboard sign, most communities banned them 30 years ago. That's how intrusive they are, blocking, you know, people's views of all kinds of things. So that they're any kind of a large sign. But a mural, by its definition, is art, right?
Yes.
It's not offensive.
Yes.
But it's when you embed the signage in it. So if you're comfortable with it, I will work with David. There could be another mechanism. What we did do in the past, and we've recently adjusted that, was in the past, and there were some really good reasons for this, some signs were sent to the Heritage Board. Same situation, and the Heritage Board could somewhat override or overrule the signage bylaw. The problem was there wasn't a mechanism, again, for them to do that. That's why that was stopped. Now, and then the thing may be, in this future process, if a mural has signage embedded in it, it should likely then go back through the planning board, or somebody, or as a conditional use or something, and get them to sign off on it. Because I talked to David before about this, and he said it's hard to disentangle yourself from the sign portion of it, Alex. You can't delegate that to somebody else if it becomes problematic. Because if the public push back and they say, that sign is terrible, and that's not what was put up, but if it was the Arts Advisory Committee that provided the direction, it should go back to them to enforce it, but they don't have any legal means to enforce it. So I think there's a way to do it. I just didn't know how to do it, and now it's a priority. I will find a way to do it.
Okay, so can we have that ready then for the 1st of February?
I don't think so. Well, it's David's schedule, and David's really, but I'll get it as quickly as I can. Yeah, so.
Is that okay?
Hey, Mr. Chair, so last year when we were in Quebec City for the FCN,
Mhm.
and there was a couple of councillors that talked about fake heritage. And we remember we were down in the old city, and where they took that old theater and they built it on a glass addition to it. But if you recall all the signage that was on the old theater across the street.
Yes, yeah.
And that signage was art, but it was advertising in the same, all-in-one.
Yeah.
So, you know, there are examples in other cities,
Right.
especially Quebec, which is the
Right.
oldest
Sure.
city next to Mexico City in North America, that they do make this work in their older sections of the cities, up the jurisdiction.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
seeing
Do you recall?
that. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it would really reinforce that, and again, it goes back to how the Heritage Board, and the Heritage Board used to have some really good reasons to change the sign bylaw, because it was a heritage building. And the sign bylaw, again, relatively crude tool, just says it'll be there and only there. But then when you looked at the building specifically, and you'd say, that's really gonna hide a really strong component of its architectural, let's move it over here, but it was, so, but I think it says now that in those cases, it can be, upon the recommendation of the Heritage Board, it can go back to the Planning Board. I forget how it is, but I'll look into it. I will try to get it as quickly as possible.
Okay, is that okay, gang?
Yep, I know that they'd like to get an answer for sure.
Sure.
Those people are trying to get.
Yeah,
Right.
Get past it.
If I could just ask one, on
Sure.
billboards,
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, there are, as you said, billboards are temporary signage.
Well, they're not allowed. They're not allowed anywhere.
Well, we do have some at University Avenue.
Well, there's some,
They're still there after the building was put up.
Right,
Business
there's some
open.
historical ones in every community, yeah, yeah.
So how do we take care of them? Because some of the business owners on the avenue between Houston, between Kirkwood Drive and Belvedere,
Yeah.
there's still some temporary signage up there. While the facility or building was under construction, it's now built for open for business.
Well, that is actually permitted, but if the building's gone, it should be coming down.
Oh, the building's up.
Okay,
And
so,
they got the permanent signage up.
right, so, but you're allowed to put those up while under construction,
Right.
we can deal with that.
Okay.
But there was also some other illegal billboard signs up that I'm enforcing as I speak somewhere else. And, we're demanding that they be removed or we will prosecute them. So, anyway, we will work on that one. It's just in light of getting things right, it's better that it gets resolved appropriately. And again, I tend to use David judiciously, but I'll indicate that clearly
Yeah.
that I need some help on this.
good, thank you. Anything else from anybody?
No, thank you.
Okay, what's next on the agenda?
The other one is another sign. It's dealing with interpretation of a sign. When you're we have a building that's a 5-story building where there's
Yeah, she's at a conflict.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Sorry, I just.
we have a 5-story building where they would like to have like rooftop signage, but you need to be facing the street or a public right-of-way. They're facing a little alley, but it doesn't fit the definition of a public right-of-way. They've been, they've been talking to a number of counselors and indicating, well, why can't we have this? We had an interpretation of the situation that they have is adjacent to a right-of-way, but it doesn't really fit into the intent. It's supposed to be adjacent to a street. If you're on a corner lot, you can have this high signage on both sides. They're not on a corner lot, but again, I think that one's a lot less complicated. I likely can come forward
Yeah.
for amendments to the zoning bylaw for next month, and we can deal with that at that time. Again, if I can get the other one at the same time, depending how quickly David can work, we'll bring both forward.
Thank you. We're a little time sensitive here with Councilor McCabe.
Yeah.
Has to be somewhere else very shortly. Yes,
I'll
Attorney
turn it
Brown.
off.
Outward, yes.
Yeah. Mr. Chair?
Yes.
When you, Alex,
Yep.
this is one building that we're talking about, but if you look at the university with the construction that's going on, let's say if they wanted to put a signage on the north side, under current bylaws, right, to say that this is the Julie McCabe Memorial Residence, right? And it's facing, it's not facing on the street, would that be allowed? That would not
I
be
don't think so. I think the case in point that we're dealing with is when you're.
No, I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just talking to some of the, like, I think, going down the road, we're gonna be
Amending, we
looking,
should be amending.
we're gonna be looking at taller buildings, because we're running out of space
Right.
on the ground.
Right.
So we go up, or we move outside of downtown Forest.
Yeah.
I don't think, the amendment, again, I don't know why it was changed 2018, maybe it was just an overall, the whole zoning and development bylaw, but I think going down the road, I think we'll be running into these situations.
Sure, and the sign by law was reviewed, I think it was in 2014 or 2015. It was done from stem to stern. There was a lot of change in it, but that doesn't mean that it can't be
It
reviewed.
wasn't done in 2018 at all?
I thought it was, because
I'm trying, my memory is, like,
I think there was some
2018,
cleanup by the former chair.
Jesse Morton did it, and Jesse's been gone for at least 2 years. Easily. So there may have been a few adjustments to it, but the real big, large review was, I think it was 14 or 15, but I could be wrong.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
It's noted. Welcome back, Elena. She ignored me.
She's having a coffee.
What's next, Alex?
Thank you.
So look,
Thank you.
I'd hope to
Thank
thank you
you.
today with a recommendation for our vendor for an automated building permit system. Because the planning staff have made their way through that, and this is another big decision for us, and we were kind of rushing it because of, again, the end of the budget year. We're getting very close, but when we met yesterday, we just decided that what's happening when we buy this product, the product is, so we're planners, some of us are more technologically advanced than others, but whatever the product we buy has got to integrate into the city system. So we were just trying to ensure that whatever decision planning staff makes, that we don't find out from our IT people that this other product would have been much easier and less expensive to integrate with. So as a result, we're working with them in regard to, they're going to do their review. There's only 2 of them. We had three proposals, 3 vendors bid. There's only 2 that are, basically, I think will be under consideration. And but if I may, I'm just going to just give the high level, take this opportunity, well, when this comes forward next, so we're not starting anew, this is a new planning committee. The automated building permit system, it will be transformational in the planning department, but again, in light of everything that's over there, you're introducing a tool that's going to make things more efficiently, but we're introducing it at a time that's the most troublesome because everybody's busy over there and there's some disruption when you bring it online. So what it's intended to do is just electronically monitor building permits. So your building permits will come through, they're all going to go digital. So it'll all be inputted in computers, and then the long-term implications are, and it likely won't happen in 2021, but if you're a developer, instead of having to wait for the doors to open at 8 o'clock or 4 o'clock whenever we close, you can be submitting these things online, and you can be paying for them online. So it is a transformational workflow. But the other thing too is that it tracks, like everybody can see what's going on. So let's say one of you call me and say, look, somebody's inquired about this permit, can you look into it, Alex? Well, the only way I can do that is I have to literally go from desk to desk to desk. In the future, I'm just going to go in the system. I'm going to see Laurel Thompson's working on it. She called the applicant, because it's all in there. She called the applicant on January 14th and requested a lot drainage plan, right? So that it's so quick to find the information. So it tracks things. It's just a better tool, but there's a big learning curve for staff. So, again, some staff are more comfortable with technology, but once they get onto the tool, it's great. Subdivision process tracking. There's so many parts of subdivision, that in regard to all of the various steps of subdivision, that's embedded in it. Inspection, tracking, and scheduling. So in the future, and we will be buying pieces of this tool on a yearly basis. Even if we had all of the money in the world, it's too disruptive to try to do it all in 1 year. So once we get the system in the department, possibly in 2022, we're going to be back, or 2023, and saying, okay, we need it'll either be a laptop or a phone in the field. So the building inspector can literally go there with this, like they're called, the police use them, those are really rugged laptops. They open it up, they go onto your property, they walk through and they go check. They can give you your approval right on the site. So it's a much more efficient tool. Compliance, which are when people call in and they're making complaints, we can start to log them. Workflow notification, it'll tell the planners, like if you're a building inspector, I was on the site and I told Mr. X that he needed to get this done in 10 days. He had 10 days to respond. Then I will come into work this morning, pop, comes up on my computer, because again, the amount of work that's flowing through there, it reminds you that I told Mr. Brown, again, on the 11th, that he needed to provide this. He has or he hasn't, and then I'll find it and then check it off. So it helps on workflows. Reporting to council, it's much more detailed in regard to very building permit activity that can be tracked, development review and tracking, and then the last part of it is the portal. And the portal, I know that sounds like it's the way into our system. The portal is for the public to be able to go online, take out their credit card, or use PayPal, and that's why it's very important for our IT to make sure that this thing is secure and is going to be operational. So in the interest of time, because I thought we could sort of recommend one, we could discuss the pros and cons of the two of them. I will hold off on that, but I just wanted you to Yeah, but I just thought I'd make you aware, and this is a great opportunity to just,
Who's going to input all that? Is it just moving forward that you're going to start that?
well, we will, and there's another little trickiness to it because of COVID. It's training. Every one of them provides training, but they're not going to be able to come here. So that training is going to be, it's going to be online, right? It's not as good, and there's no vendors that are local. We're looking for, there is at least 50 different vendors in that space for permitting systems. Most municipalities have them. So on the one hand, we may be a little bit behind in getting one, but on the other hand, there's been some ones in the past that just didn't survive, or we're going to be looking for one that's been around a long time. So again, it's a great tool. We've been looking for it for some time. Again, it's been so busy over there that it's hard to both, to evaluate them and then to implement it. But we're at the point where it's been around a long time. The money is budgeted. It's there. But the other key component for me, which is critical, which we got into the meeting yesterday, I need to know that will get me this far, right? My concern was that I will spend some public money for 2021, and if I don't budget enough money in March to implement the thing, then you folks will be saying, we gave you that money from last year's budget, Alex, and then it took you to a cul-de-sac that you couldn't finish it because you didn't have the money to implement it.
Every other department.
Right, exactly. But it's just a matter of, as long as I know that I can do it, which IT can hopefully indicate, I'm not looking for more money. I just don't want to purchase something because of my lack of IT knowledge and because of the scope of the work that they're going to provide, there was additional work required to get integrated into our system. So, and then when I'll be back to this committee and I'll be saying as part of my budget, these are my asks. My budget's relatively straightforward. It's just staff. A few special projects. This will be one in regard to how much money do I think I'll need in 2021 to implement the other side of it. I'll buy the tool, we'll start to implement the tool, we'll do the training, but there may be some upgrades to our existing architecture beyond the planning department, but architecture for the city to get it done.
Speaking of money, what range do you don't have to be?
I don't, the automated building permit system, I think in my budget right now is $100,000.
Okay.
I know that it sounds like a lot of money.
That's the
Right.
initial.
Right. But again, I'm pretty confident. Moncton system, I know the system you're using, that may be a $2 million product. They would be, they spent a lot, they $5 to $1 million on a tool. And that doesn't, how do I put it? Sometimes municipalities buy these tools and they want them to be a lot larger.
Yeah.
So it goes beyond the planning department. So these tools are corporate tools. And my last comment is, when we buy this tool, the tool won't only be for the planning department. The tool will be, most other departments will link into that tool. Fire department will link in for their permitting or inspections. They are a great corporate tool for us all to work with, and it's not, we will be driving our piece of it, which is permitting, but others can certainly event management. It could be Frank. Frank may be saying, he may come to you in 2022 and say, look, we've got this new tool, we'd like to purchase that component of the tool to deal with my thing.
So, Mr. Chair, you work with Veterans Affairs, understanding that it's always about collecting data.
Yeah.
You went from the old 3-story buildings with all the files. Well,
Yeah.
all those files now are just in a what is it? Yeah, it's a database. But what it's called, where you get all your computers together. And it's the database is just a collection of data. Like when I phone Bellline about my bill,
Yeah.
they take up Lori Devine. All the data, every time we phone, it's tracked. It's the same.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
When you phone Visa,
Yeah.
here's my bill. They can go back as many years. They go into the
Yeah.
it's
Very
mainframe.
efficient.
The old mainframe took large buildings and put them down into one building. That's all we're looking at now, Alex. And if you look at the data collection we're doing for the city and integrating with other departments, I think we're just looking at planning and development right now.
We are, yeah.
Get that base in.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
We're not breaking new ground here.
No.
We're not reinventing the wheel.
Right.
So you have BTC next door, Nickel McDonald with Business Technology Consulting. You have Deltaware, Maximus. All these businesses can
Yeah.
provide technical professional assistance to them. But take our time with this. Let's take our time. I know, you don't have to rush, but it's all it is just a data system. You're setting up a mainframe. The server could be at Wichita, Kansas, but the thing is, it's about collecting data and how we share that data amongst all of us.
But it is very specialized work in regard to permitting, and it's those that have been around a long time. That technology is about who's investing in their technology. What happens in that competition is the top dog keeps getting more and more competitive, and that if I was providing, let's say we bought a system 20 years ago, after 20 years, that system may be declining in its functionality because they're investing less in it, and let's say an adjacent community invested in another one, and more communities are using it, and its functionality is going through the roof. So at some point you have to get off of one. It's like a horse race. You want to buy the one that the business or the municipalities are all investing in, and it's got a really wide breadth of municipalities lined up. There was some sense that could be manipulated locally. It can't. In my mind,
No, but I mean, in terms of assisting with the RFP, RFQ, trying to get the system that will be the starting block and that we can build onto.
Right.
Alex, technology is, I've always, we're into the technology era now. It's going to just keep growing and growing. When 5G comes, when we get a new fiber optic system in place after we get all the system installed, which is still an ongoing process. But when that's all in, that's where we can take off. And I think, data is just taking everything that used to be in file cabinets, now going into a mainframe that you can just access from anywhere you want. Wi-Fi, hardwire, whatever.
Right. And I reminded, when we were scoring this yesterday, I reminded the staff, as much as it's a great tool for us, and we appreciate the fact that council is willing to invest in this, the real benefit for you folks is that you want developers who find it easier and more efficient, right? I mean, and so with everything that's going on, the faster we can respond to them and move their permits through the system, and then allow them to apply online. Again, if you're a busy guy on a sunny day, when you're standing over, you send a staff member over, stand in line to get his building permit through. That's time is money. If they could do it the evening, it would be ideal. So that's the system we're moving to. I just thought I'd take the opportunity when I come back, and then we'll. That's why I want to go on camera. We'll just say these are the pros of this one and the cons. These are the pros and cons of this one. This is what the other departments have stated. This is the one we recommend, and we'll go from there.
So we'll know what the purpose is too.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Alex. Anything else?
Meetings.
Oh, yes. This meeting was originally scheduled for yesterday, but because of other commitments of members, we had to postpone it today. I spoke to the local media, I guess it was on Monday or so, basically saying that we've also gotten a bit of a notification. I think, Your Worship, you may have gotten it too, from one of our members of affordable housing, that we should speed up and put the wheels back on the STR.
Yes,
Yeah. So that kind of spurred me on to kind of revamp or realign or do something, at least reply to Amy Power, which I'll do today. So I just wanted I spoke to Mr. Stewart at the Guardian office, and that's where that thing came in today. There's nothing startling in it. What we've been doing is waiting for the COVID restrictions on us, because we can't. This is a large project, the STR public meeting. We have to be really super ready for this one, and the first readiness is accommodations to hold the meeting. And if we're, for good reason, we're restricted to 50 people in a cohort, and 3 cohorts at most. 150 will not do it, I don't think. We don't want to be in a position where, we say, we're going to go on, say February the 10th, and to find out that 482 people want to attend. What do we do then? We can't go in haste with this. We got to. So therefore, that's the gist of the article today. I was just looking for the concurrence and agreement from council members and Councillor Yankoff also on the phone. So does anybody have an issue with that particular thing? Approach.
Look, I didn't mean to interject.
Yeah.
On the application that we're dealing with this month, this is the first time we've had to contact the province Because the province, in the past, we were having these separate rooms, and now the province is signing off on them. I've got a really long email, and I did it purposely. I don't think that we're gonna need that second room, but what Ellen and I are trying to do is, we wanna make sure that if we're having these public meetings, and again, I haven't even, but it's a long email from the province in regard to how to do it, right? It's
Yeah.
more about how to do these meetings. The last thing that, I'm just nervous, that if we get into a meeting and we don't meet these protocols, that somebody's gonna, challenge on that, so.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's just a matter of, there's some sensitivity in regard to having those separate cohorts where they are. So this meeting this month, even though the other room may not be used, and it's not that much more expensive, but Ellen and I will know who we need to talk to at the province and how do we need, because you need a plan. Every meeting needs a plan. Am I not right, Ellen? It needs an approved plan.
Yeah.
And so the point is that that's just another element to it. And I'll let you folks decide on what you want to do.
So, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, I totally agree that this is not something we wanna rush, or we
No.
wanna
No.
shortchange people the opportunity to participate, and it's been a hot topic, and I think to do it properly and to
Yeah.
do it when we're able, makes the most sense.
We don't want anybody leaving there, that venue, saying, I never got a chance to speak and I never got a chance to listen.
So, Mr. Chair, on the 18 Trainer Street, there was a call from the residents to delay it because of COVID-19 or the circuit breaker
Yeah.
coming out of it. Did we not get a legal opinion about that? Were we not challenged about dealing with, like, holding it off, and then it was, council said no?
It wasn't council, it wasn't challenged to holding it off, it was challenged to putting it on the night before the meeting was to be held, adding it to an agenda, which you could do, but you, according to the MGA, you couldn't
Correct.
vote on that issue
Correct.
that night.
Correct.
So it kind of all fell apart from there.
So we were criticized by the public that we were rushing, remember, we were being too hasty about having the meeting,
Yeah, I wouldn't say the public as much, yeah, okay, yeah.
because they were asking, hold it off so that we can get an opportunity where we can all assemble, whether it was 50,
Yeah,
right? But with the issue that we're talking about now, I don't think STRs is a looming issue right now, because you know what? Come this summer,
Yeah.
if we get half the
Right.
tours that we got in 2019, or a quarter, we'll be doing well.
Right.
And do we have enough accommodations
Right.
other than the STRs? I think we do. I think Amy was just following up from a meeting that we had prior to Christmas
Mhm.
with some of the members of the affordable housing.
I'm sure they just wanted to make sure it's on the docket.
Oh,
Yeah.
And the chair has made a commitment. I want to make sure that you said this, we want to have the time and a place where we can have an open discussion, whether you come in by Twitter,
Yeah.
Facebook, or in person. That's what you've said.
yes,
And I agree with that, because we want to make sure that
Everybody's
everyone
heard.
can be heard.
yeah,
And we were criticized. And it's like this situation, you're damned if you do,
Yeah.
and damned if you don't.
exactly. But
And,
we'll do it right.
Yeah, our guy there that runs our meetings, Phil Pater,
Yes.
public meetings, I mean, those meetings are expensive. But the only thing is for me, when we have a public meeting, it's critical and it's stressful for Ellen and I to make sure the meeting works. You can imagine inviting a whole lot of people to a meeting, let's say 40 or 50 people show up on a cold January night, and then if the meeting can't happen, either because the technology failed, somebody can't come in on WebEx, somebody can't, we're exceeding our room number, and we never know. Everybody says to me, as if I got a magic hat on as to who's going to show up. Sometimes I don't think a lot of people are going to show up, and they do. Other times I think nobody's going to show up, and the room is packed. We packed over there on one application. We filled some of those rooms at the Charlottetown Hotel. I wouldn't say I was shocked, but we had the capacity.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is we do have a bit of a duty. I remember on the one at the Charlottetown Hotel, when you're getting some people out and they want to participate, and there's some elderly people there, right? Well, most of the seats were taken. A lot of people had to stand. These are tricky parts of a public meeting
Yeah.
for me. That is not that, if I'm not happy anyways, or if it can't be heard, sometimes that happens here at council chamber. Right, so there's a lot of moving parts to a public meeting, and we endeavor to try to get it all right.
Hey, Mr. Chair, we have, it's required for us to hold a public consultation on this
Yeah.
issue.
Sure.
It's not we're hiding from it.
No,
It's
there's nothing to
just
hide.
When is the best opportunity to do it, where the most can be engaged, whether it's via internet, via Skype, via whatever form, or in person. I agree with the chair. We want to make sure we have all the elements will be satisfied.
But on that one issue, that was the largest public meeting I've had since we were here. We think we had somewhere from 230 to 250 people out at the
Yeah,
show.
okay. Federation Center.
Right. So I mean,
Yeah.
that's one where people.
And that was on STRs.
Right, exactly, right, yeah.
Or partially on STR.
And I
Councilor
like
McKay.
that they are starting to, I like your registration idea, that helps
Right.
in a whole lot of ways. So they've asked for this public meeting that we have this time, that people register either
Yeah.
to come in person or online, and I just think that it's good, so.
And that's a good point you brought up there, Mr. Forbes, is we have a little announcement we make now before the public meeting, just laying down the ground rules for the public meeting. I think we should maybe, Your Worship, think about adding in to that little announcement that if there's an overflow crowd, I'm talking when we're back in the real world,
Yes.
the new normal type of thing, when all the restrictions are off or really you can't, it's not a factor while we're keeping 6-foot distancing and that sort of thing. But just to remind people in the room, if there's elderly people standing around at the back of the room because of lack of chairs, maybe suggest to the younger people at the meeting that they offer up their chair to an elderly
Be
person.
kind and patient.
That's
Be
right.
respectful.
And for a little bit of levity, I was to, prior to COVID, I went to a planning conference in the United States, and I got on a bus, and a woman of middle age asked me if I wanted her seat. And it was the first time that Mr. Forbes said, "Oh my God, do I look that fragile and that vulnerable?"
Kind of request.
But people are very respectful down in the United States on a bus. Transit, it's always somebody's hanging on something. I respectfully declined, went home and said, "Bummer." But again, it is just a matter of, the people do take care of themselves in this situation.
You're not in your 70s.
I may look it, but I'm
That's what
not.
happens when you're kidding, when you're managed planning, you just kind of speed your way through there.
Okay, folks, I think we may want to adjourn right now.
Just under new business.
Okay, yes.
Just under new business, there was an email I received from Mr., the owner of 40 Belvedere Avenue. He's doing the extension.
Yes.
He's doing some affordable housing, but he didn't apply under CMHC or with the province, but he did speak to Cody
Thanks.
Clinton.
Yeah, sorry, yeah.
And Cody Clinton
Yeah,
said
sure,
that
yeah, thanks.
they recognize that if any developer is constructing affordable housing, that it meets their checkbox. But he was told by planning that.
Wouldn't be planning, it's in order to in order to get the provisions in the zoning bylaw, you must meet the other policy, Mr. Kelly oversees that, to get the.
That's the affordable housing.
Right.
Housing program.
Right, and I think it says in there, I'm not certain, but I think it says that you must be subsidized by a government body.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, Elaine, you have a question before we adjourn?
Yes, please. I just wanted to kind of just weigh in that I was in agreement that, that the STR issue is big, and I certainly see the reasoning for holding off until we can actually have a larger meeting. And I just had one question for you, Chair.
Yes.
Would this be something that we should ask the communications department to send out a PSA, just outlining this to let the public know so that the questions stop being asked?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a good
That's a
point.
good idea, yeah.
Communicate.
Yeah, I will speak to that individual on the close of this meeting.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for dialing in, Councilor Yankoff. Have a good day, okay?
Yep, you all as well.
Okay, can we move to adjourn? Moved by Councilor McCabe, second by Mayor Brown, that we are adjourned. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Thank you, Mr.
We're
Chair.
adjourned.
Thank you, Alex.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you, Alana.
Thank you very much for coming out early in the morning.